Welcome to TYRO TV. I'm Ron TYRO.
And I'm Cathy TYRO. And for those of you that don't know who we are, Ron and I are the co-founders of the Ridge Project, and we're also the co-creators of TYRO.
TYRO is a powerful Latin word which means apprentice, novice, someone learning something new, a warrior. You know, and when we talk about being a warrior, when we talk about being an apprentice, you know, people look at warrior, somebody who's already there and it arrived, and then an apprentice who's, you know, you're doing something brand new.
You're learning it.
You're learning it. But so now let's combine that really together. What I want to share with you right now, real quick, this is powerful. When you're a TYRO, you're always in the forever learning process, right? You're in this continuous improvement plan. You're an apprentice, but you're also a master of something. You're a novice, but you're also an expert in something. And you recognize that there's so many areas in your life that you're not good at, that you want to get good at. So you'll never arrive at being that 100% master. But that's what you strive for.
Yeah, because TYRO is a learner, somebody that's continuing to learn. And so when we think about being a warrior, which is, okay, so I like learner and warrior put together, which is really powerful. Because as long as you can continue to learn, you can become more and more strong, you can become more and more courageous, and you learn how to overcome and navigate through things.
And that's what TYRO TV is all about. So dads, if you haven't taken TYRO TV yet, or TYRO Dad's class, sign up for it. You know, we want to really encourage you, because the principles that are unraveled, right? No, unwrapped in here, right? They will put you on this path of success that you're looking for. Everybody's got dreams and desires, but I don't know how to do it. So boom, sign up for TYRO Dads, and I guarantee you success.
If you practice principles that you learn. See, these are the principles that Ron and I learned through our own journey through 15 years of imprisonment. Ron doing time on the inside, and the kids and I doing time on the outside. And we learned so much about what it takes to overcome obstacles, about what it takes to build a strong, healthy relationship and a strong family, what it takes to actually live up to your potential. And now, through TYRO TV, and the things that we do, our passion is to help everyone coming behind us be able to experience success in their own lives.
And so today's show, man, this is gonna be a tough one, right? Today's show, we want to talk about how to own your own story, even the ugly parts, right? Owning your story, even the ugly parts, right? Because there's some chapters in my life that are dark, right? But I own them now. So and we're going to give you the how-to own it. So I don't want to go too far into it. But everybody's got dark chapters in their lives.
Everybody has got a measure of pain, a measure of grief. Everybody's got a measure of, wow, shoulda, woulda, couldas, right? And so today we're going to talk about how do you own them instead of letting them own you and control you.
So you don't want to miss this. Stay tuned, because this is going to be a powerful segment of TYRO TV, and we'll be right back.
TYRO Dads will help you to see who you really are on the inside by coming to terms with your past, present, and future. You'll begin to move forward by using your time on the inside to transform yourself. We know you're not the only one serving time. Your family is too. Overcoming the issues that existed prior to and during incarceration are often more than what many families can survive. TYRO Dads has a unique method of reaching and healing families based on Ron and Catherine TYRO's own personal experiences. TYRO Dads works exclusively with incarcerated fathers who have minor children. The program lasts for 10 weeks and focuses on intensive character development. You'll be taught to take responsibility for your actions. To own it, you'll be prepared to overcome the obstacles of incarceration and transition back into your home and community, both successfully and permanently. Upon successful completion of this program, you will earn the title of TYRO, which means a warrior, someone learning something new. You will be one of the honored, a man worth following. If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO, or you want to know more, contact your local project facilitator or your institution staff.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron TYRO.
And I'm Cathy TYRO.
And today we're talking about owning your story, even the ugly parts.
And I would even say, not just even the ugly parts, especially the ugly parts.
And when we say the ugly parts, maybe it's not necessarily, don't look at it as something you did, right, or you caused.
Right.
We're talking about maybe even the ugly parts that you experienced because of somebody else's
the trauma.
Experiences, whatever you were in the midst of. You know, growing up as a child, you had no control what's happening with your parents, right? But maybe there were some ugly parts that you experienced in their lives.
Right. Because if we don't, when we talk about, okay, what is it we're talking about? We're talking about identifying things in your life that created obstacles for you or caused trauma or pain for you, or that you caused trauma or pain for someone else, recognizing those things and owning them as, you know what, this happened to me and this affected me in this way. This is so important, because if you don't pause, if you don't really think about your life, you don't really think about the journey of your life, you're going to keep on the same path that you're on right now.
And it's important to own all those parts, right? Own all those parts, because, and we're going to talk about the why in a little bit, but what is it? It's you regaining freedom. It's you getting that back. And your stories will no longer own you, right? What is it? What does that mean? Owning your story. This is your stage. This is your platform. What is it? Owning every drama, every heartache, every pain that you had, and owning it and not letting it own you.
See, there's a difference. When you own it, when you can tell your story, when you can recognize it, then you have power and control over it. But when your story owns you, there's like, oh gosh, I can't talk about that. I don't want to think about that. You know what? I'm going to blame everybody else for it.
When your story owns you, you stifle growth.
Right.
You stifle the greatness that's in you to come out.
And somebody else then is owning your story. That means somebody else is telling it, and they, I promise you, do not have all the facts right.
Man, so I'm telling you. So what is it? What does it mean to own your own story? That means you've come into a place, TYRO, where, you know what? You got this, you no longer wear a false bravado, right? You're no longer wearing a mask that hiding all the skeletons. You know what? You got all of them out. And so no one, and we're talking about, no one will have any power over you. They can't bring up something that you don't own, man. It's under your feet. So if they're bringing up your past and the ugly parts of your past, guess who owns it? And they're talking about something that may have 20 years ago. That's them tripping. They're the ones having a battle with it, not you. So don't take it back on when they try to remind you, right, about who you used to be.
Right.
Shake the dust off and go on.
But the only way that that has power is if you don't own your own story. When you begin to own your story, recognizing it and telling your own story, telling it first to people, trusted people, and eventually maybe even writing it in a book, maybe
we'll talk
even
about that
sharing,
on how
right.
too.
Then now you own it. You have all the power and all the control over your story, even the parts where other people inflicted pain and trauma on you.
But what is it? It's examining yourself. What is it? It's being truthful with yourself. It's looking in the mirror.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? It's what is it? It's looking in the mirror and telling you that yourself the truth. And this is a hard place to be, Dad. Come on, TYRO. When you can look in the mirror, because you tell people all types of stories, and you know if they're false or true. But when you can't lie to yourself. So what is it by owning your own story? It's being truthful with yourself so that you can grow to become the man of honor, the man of good character you want to be.
And part of owning your own story, and we're going to talk about why it's important, we're going to talk about how you actually do it, but we need you to understand that if you don't own your story, you're causing pain not just to you and stifling your growth, but also to your children. Because your children don't get to experience you and everything that you've learned and everything that you've overcome, and then their perspective of you is a very limited view, right? And so later we'll talk about when to tell your story to your kids, how to tell your story to your kids, how far and how much information to give and when to do it. But now when we think about owning your story, what we're talking about is understanding that your life is your life. There are going to be chapters and pieces in there that you wish weren't in there, that you want to blot out, you want to take the white out and you want to cover it up so nobody else ever sees it. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't happen that way.
So what is that called when the government asks for documents and when they get the documents, there's a black marker?
Oh, redacted.
Redacted. Guess what? Don't redact your story.
You can't redact your story.
Don't try to do it. Own it, right? Let's that word redacted.
Yeah.
Redacted. What does that come from? It's like redirect?
It's like, okay, I'm going to give you this, but now anything you don't want people to be public knowledge, redact it. Take it out and then resubmit it.
And that's not what we're talking about.
No.
No, because when we talk about owning all the ugly parts, owning your story, there's no redacting. It's your life. It is what it is.
Yep.
Right? It is what it is. Right? So anyways, it's going to be powerful.
And so, we hope that you understand, like when we talk about owning your story, one of the things, when Ron first went to prison, and we'll talk later why that's so important, but when Ron first went to prison and Blake would ask him, Daddy, where are you? Daddy, where are you? Daddy, where are you? I mean, he would change the subject. he would say...
I would avoid it.
He would avoid the subject, and Blake would say, Daddy,
I would lie.
Are you in jail? No, who told you that?
Yep.
Mommy told me. Grandma told me. Oh, no, that's silly. How are you? Let's talk about you, Blake, right?
Yep.
And so here, he's covering things up because Ron wasn't even owning his story at that time. Like, wow, you know what? This is real.
And I'm telling myself I'm lying and not telling my son the truth because I want to protect him.
Right.
But he already knew the truth.
Right.
Right? So what was I doing? I was hurting him. Right? I was hurting us. I was hurting our relationship. So one night, I told myself, now this took courage, right? First time, I practiced it all day long, right? Okay, if Blake, when I talk to him tonight, if he asks me where I'm at, I'm going to tell the truth. But I had to look in the mirror and say it over again, I'm in jail. I'm in jail. And I had to tell him like that. And it took courage. So listen, when we come back,
we're going to talk about why it's so important to own your own story. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Playing catch, basketball, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. These are all normal things on the outside, but many times are missed in a visitation setting. TYRO Dads brings the same fun experience to the inside through Family Days. As a TYRO Dad, you have the opportunity to participate in this fantastic event. Family Day is designed to allow fathers and families to engage with each other through activities designed to stimulate communication, learning, and play. Family Days will not only be a highlight for you, but for your children as well. The Ridge Project has strategically developed Family Day as an opportunity to help you connect with your child throughout your separation and help both of you develop skills to continue building your relationship when you return home.
welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron TYRO.
And I'm Cathy TYRO.
And today we're talking about a tough subject, right? We're talking about a tough topic here because everybody becoming a TYRO has to be real with himself. In order to be a true man of honor, somebody who's lived to tell about something, you got to own that something.
That's right. Because if you don't own it, somebody else owns it, and it has power over you and power over your children and your legacy.
And what's that something we're talking about?
Your story.
You know, I remember when I had to come to terms and grips, 14 to 25 year sentence, something I not only didn't do, but it's a heinous crime, all that type of stuff, the ugliness of it, right? And having to come to grips with it and having to come to grips with it in a penitentiary that's a hostile environment, right? It's a hostile environment. And in the prison, there's a rule. There's a rule. Never ask somebody why they're there.
Right.
That's the unspoken rule. I don't know how much weight that rule carries today, right? But it carried a lot of weight when I went to prison, right? But that doesn't give me an excuse not to own it.
Right. That's exactly right. Because when you own your story, which means that you can tell your story, it means, first of all, as Ron said earlier, you've told your story to yourself. You've recognized those pain points in your life. Like, create a timeline, and you say, okay, from birth to now. And so then you write down the major events that have happened in your life to get you to this point, and then you look at it and say, wow, some of them are good, some of them are bad. Major event might have been, okay, we moved to a new town, and that might have been a good thing. And then the bad thing was then I met Johnny, and Johnny introduced me to drugs. Okay, that was a bad thing. So you're putting arrows up and down, right? And then you look and you say, wow, this journey is what has caused me to be in this place at this time. What have I learned? So now I'm owning my story, that these positive, amazing, wonderful things happen, but also these painful, traumatic things happen to me. What can I learn from them? How have they affected me? How do I take authority over them so that as I move forward, that they're not dictating my future to me?
When I did that, I thought some of these events that I experienced as a young man, as a young teenager, I thought they were good. I thought they were okay. But then as I became awakened, right, as I became alert, and I looked back at what led me up to where I couldn't be taken at my word. Come on, guys, right, TYRO? And I looked back, I said, oh my gosh, this was detrimental to my life. What I thought was good was really poison. And it led up to where I couldn't be taken at my word. It led up to the point of why I couldn't hold a job down. It led up to the point of when I looked at why did I get fired from here? It led up to the point of why couldn't I save any money? I could see that the
Why
decision,
is it so hard to maintain a healthy relationship?
I mean, and so not everything that you think you're doing is good is good.
Right. And so taking a step back and looking at it and really understanding it is going to help you overcome it in ways you could never overcome it unless you own your story.
But here's really, when you own your story, Dad, because your children are looking for that role model. They're looking for a place or a person, which is you, Dad, who can really be honest and an open book. Because that you're giving the example of what it means to be transparent. And that's what your children need to see. You know, now Cathy mentioned earlier, you know when to tell what part of the story, when to tell it. Because your children might be too young to hear something so dramatic. Right? So be wise now. Don't just vomit it all out on there and cause so much. Now you created more havoc in their lives.
Right. But as you own your story and you own your mistakes and you own your successes, both of those, you're teaching your children to have confidence in their own life, in their own story. You're teaching them that just because something happens, whether it's good or bad, it's not the end of the story. And so we see people get caught up, kids and adults get caught up in something wonderful happens and they live only in that moment without continuing on their story, and then that's it. The thing that happened 10 years ago defines them, and it doesn't. They stop living. Or something terrible happened and they try to hide from it and run from it and put themselves to sleep. When you own your story and you can say, wow, this really great thing happened, and you know what, I accomplished something wonderful, you give them permission to own their accomplishments. When you say, wow, I really screwed up. You know what I did? I did this, and gosh, you know what? I had to go back and I had to fix it. Wow, it's okay to make mistakes. There's still opportunity to make it right. The big why isn't just for you to overcome, Dad. The big why is so that your kids can have the freedom to fail and to succeed and to keep moving forward.
And to add what Cathy's saying, when you talk about the why, Dad, why is it important for you to own your story? You empower your kids to own theirs. You're empowering your family to own their story. Guess what? In your story, your kids are in your story. So in their story, you're in their story. You know, because I remember talking to Blake and Brandon, hey, do kids ask where I'm at? And what do you say? Right? And they would lie. My dad's at work or something. They wouldn't tell them. And finally, we gave them enough. It's like we had to almost give them the permission.
Right. Yep.
We had to give them permission. Look, you don't have to lie for me. You can tell the truth. Because I know there's dads in there right now, Cathy, right now in prison, who actually are telling a lie to their families. Don't tell my kids I'm in prison. Tell them I'm off in the military. Tell them I'm in Afghanistan. Tell them I'm in college. Tell them my job site, I'm at school right now. I'm at work. That's where I'm at. You know, don't lie.
Right.
Because what you're doing is, because your children are going to find out the truth.
And you're locking them up, right, in their emotions. You're locking yourself down and you're locking them up. And so owning your own story is so important to bring transformation generationally, starting with you, and then giving permission to your children to experience the true freedom that comes from owning your story.
Another reason why it's important, Dads, because when you get home, people are going to ask you, what was prison like? Most of the men that I've met that have 2 or 3 numbers, right, when that question was asked, they said, I don't want to talk about it. You know what? I want to put that so far behind me, I don't even want to think about it. Man, I don't even want you, right? So now I'm
erasing that from my story.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. So now they're trying to push it under the rug. But guess what? When you start to do that, you start to fall back asleep. Because as long as you keep that story in front of you and you understand why you went through it and how it made you better, you will never repeat it again.
So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how. How do you own your story? How do you teach your kids to own their own story? So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back.
Dear son, it's been hard these last few years, watching you grow up without me in the picture. Never taking the time to find out how you were or what was going on in your life. You're just a boy, I thought. You don't need me. I didn't need my dad. He was never around, I told myself. But I was wrong, son. I'm supposed to be a grown man. I was selfish. I was stupid. I was thinking of me, not you. If I could go back, son, and change things, I would. It's taken me all this time being selfish to finally grow up and realize I need to be a responsible man. That's what I finally learned, not from prison, but the TYRO program. It's all about becoming a better, stronger man. Wish I would have gotten it sooner. Everything looks different to me now. I'm a changed person. I know I need to be there for you now. It's not about me anymore. It's not about being cool. It's not about who I run with. It's about Mom. It's about you. It's about being a better man, learning something new in my life. It's about being a TYRO, a man worth following. I'm your dad. You're my son, and I love you. I am a TYRO. I'm a TYRO. Dad.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Tiarina.
And I'm Cathy Tiarina.
And we're talking today about owning your story, even the ugly parts. Right. Whether you committed something or you caused people to have a negative experience, or a negative experience was happening to you. Right.
And most of the time, we have some of both, right? And so you've got some periods in your life that's like, wow, I experienced trauma at the hands of someone else. That something happened in my life and it caused pain to me, and it's things I don't want to think about. And then another area of my life, there are things that, gosh, you know what? I experienced pain because I was creating and causing pain and trauma in other people's lives. And I don't want to talk about, and I want to forget that too. That's not how it works. If you want to be whole, you want to be healed, you want to be the best dad, the father worth following, you have to own your story. You have to recognize what happened, how it affected or infected you, and then build a plan on, you know what, how do I keep that from influencing the way that I think and my choices in the future?
So right now we're going to give you 3 powerful tools, ideas that you can begin to implement right now, right where you're at. Come on, TYRO Dad. Because practice makes permanent. If you are not practicing these 3 principles we're going to give you, if you're not trying to do it, when you get home, you say, you know what, I'm going to wait till I get home, I'll do it. It's not going to work that way. There's too much going on in your world out here for you to not begin practicing right now, right? Okay, so the first one, we talked about it earlier, we writing a journal. Write it down. Start writing your story, especially what you're experiencing right now. Right? And then be careful what you write. You don't got to put everything down. This is for you only.
Right.
But you know, you're in an environment where everything is an open book, right?
Right.
There's nothing sacred in there. So
if there was something bad that happened and it happened in Cincinnati, you could, in your journal, to protect you, right? So you're telling your story to yourself and you remember it, but you write down, you might just say, yeah, and then in Cincinnati, it was really tough. There were some really hard times that I experienced in Cincinnati. That's all you got to say in your journal. But now you've gotten it out. It's triggered for you to look in the mirror and say, wow, I survived that. I overcame that, right?
You know, and then the other one is back to the mirror right there.
Yes.
Next one is, when you're alone, grab that little mirror you bought at commissary, tell your story. You know, go in the yard, go find your spot to just sit down, be alone, and look in the mirror and start telling you the truth.
The truth.
The truth. We guarantee you, you know, the saying is the truth will set you free. Man, that is so true.
It is so true.
Right?
I feel like your little echo here. I'm just going to echo Ron. That's my job today.
But listen.
But it's right on. It's right on target. When you can admit the truth. I mean, I remember for me, one of the biggest things is like, wow, I live in fear. And before it was like, I didn't own the fact that I lived in fear, that I was afraid to drive. I was afraid to do anything. I was afraid all the time. And it's like when I looked in the mirror and said, wow, you live in fear, it was like a splash of cold water. It was like, wow, I have to fix that. I can't keep living in fear all the time. But it was such an awakening. It brought so much freedom, because then every time that fear would start rising up, I could recognize and say, wow, you know what? There's nothing to be afraid of. Yep. It's my own fear that's causing me to feel afraid. It's not scary to walk down that road. It's not scary to drive my car in a construction zone. It's not scary to drive on the interstate, whatever it is. And so once you own that, freedom comes.
And now the third one, you know, we gave you the 3, right? Journal and a mirror, right? And now the third one is, when they ask you a question, answer it with truth. Don't try to whitewater it. Don't try to dilute it. Tell the truth.
Don't try to deflect.
Right.
To talk about something else, right? Tell the truth. And we have a lot of powerful illustrations of that.
I'll give you one example. When I first really began to be awakened and really come to understand how the truth will set you free, but not only me, but those who are asking.
Right, yes.
Right? So my mom came to visit me once, and I love my mom, right?
I love his mom.
Moms are different, right? They don't want to believe the worst in you, right? Right, guys? So my mom came to visit me, and we're talking about me going to AA and NA, right, and all these things. She said, "Why do you go to those things? Why do you do that?" I said, "Well, Mom, I'm an alcoholic. And, before I came, I was drinking every day." "What? Who told you that?" I'm like, "Mom,
That's not true, mijo. Don't listen to them.
And she said, I said, "Mom, listen. When you're drinking a 12-pack a day and not going to work because you're drinking a 12-pack a day, there's a problem."
Right. And she was like, this shock. But Ron was like, "Wow, you know what? I told my mom like one of the things I had to overcome."
Yep.
And when Ron was in prison, another example that really strengthened our relationship was me asking him, "Ron, were you unfaithful to me? Did you have an affair?" And instead of diverting, instead of there's a rabbit over there, instead of lying, he told me the truth. And it was the beginning of a whole new relationship for us.
We got to really hit that restart button.
Right,
Right?
yeah.
You talk about the true restart.
Without that, we wouldn't have made it. Because I knew inside me, I knew that he was lying. And without that him owning his story, you know what? I wasn't faithful. And if I could change it, I would. Right? And so how you do it, tell the truth. How you do it, write a journal to help you frame it. And number 3, actually it was number 2, look in the mirror, tell yourself your story, because you can't leave out the painful parts. When you look yourself in the eye, you can't lie.
And practice makes permanent. Practice telling yourself the truth, right? You know the truth. You can't hold that mirror up and lie. You just can't do it, right? And it's going to take courage to do that. So
when we come back, we're going to wrap it all up, give you some final tips. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
TYRO Dads will help you to see who you really are on the inside by coming to terms with your past, present, and future. You'll begin to move forward by using your time on the inside to transform yourself. We know you're not the only one serving time. Your family is too. Overcoming the issues that existed prior to and during incarceration are often more than what many families can survive. TYRO Dads has a unique method of reaching and healing families based on Ron and Catherine TYRO's own personal experiences. TYRO Dads works exclusively with incarcerated fathers who have minor children. The program lasts for 10 weeks and focuses on intensive character development. You'll be taught to take responsibility for your actions, to own it. You'll be prepared to overcome the obstacles of incarceration and transition back into your home and community, both successfully and permanently. Upon successful completion of this program, you will earn the title of TYRO, which means a warrior, someone learning something new. You will be one of the honored, a man worth following. If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO, or you want to know more, contact your local project facilitator or your institution staff.
welcome back to TYRO TV. I'm Ron TYRO.
And I'm Cathy TYRO. And today we're talking about owning your own story.
And as we wrap this whole segment up, I want to say I really, really appreciate the relationship we have, the honesty that we get to live in every day.
Oh, yeah.
And I love being an open book with you.
It has transformed our life and our relationship, and it can transform yours too. Just learning to own your story.
Yep.
When you make mistakes, own them, apologize, correct it, move on.
Yep.
Otherwise, you just keep packing
Building,
those suitcases
building, building.
and carrying more and more weight with you. And it's going to suffocate you, and it's going to keep you from living up to your highest potential. And it's going to generationally suffocate your children, who are going to repeat the same stuff that they see you doing.
So your children will do what you do, Dad. They will learn from you, right? They will see that if my dad can do this and my dad can overcome, look at what my dad has become, even with what happened while he's in there. Man, that will set them free. It will inspire them to know that, because we all, as fathers, we want to hear our sons tell us, man, that's my dad. I'm so proud of him. I want to be just like him. Right? And being just like him is, I want to tell the truth. I want to be able to own my story. I want to empower others.
I want to get back up when I fail. I want to own it when I fail. I want to own my own successes instead of being afraid to take credit when I have success and afraid to take the blame when I mess up. You know what? That erodes self-confidence. And if you want to really build self-confidence, you have to be able to do both. Take credit when you are successful and take ownership when you miss the mark.
Because failure is not fatal.
No, it's not.
Oh, my goodness.
From failing, we have learned so much. We have learned so much from failing. Every single time that we have failed, we have learned something that has made us better.
And so failure is not fatal. Failure is not final.
Right. Oh, that's a good word.
And so we want to encourage you, Dad, as you coming to this place of telling your story, owning your story, writing your journal, going in the mirror, and when they ask questions, you answer truthfully to them. But you know how to answer truthfully. If they're too young to understand, then you gotta have to use some wisdom, right? Use discernment.
So you can start out with, hey, I made a lot of mistakes when they're little. I made a lot of mistakes I regret, and I want you to avoid those as they get a little bit older and a little bit older. They're teenagers. Yeah, you know what? I got drunk. I got high. I dealt drugs. I should have never done it. As they get all the way into adulthood, now we're talking like 18 to 25. Now as they ask, you can tell them the whole story. But don't give them all of that in one big dump when they're little. As they get older, they'll be ready to hear it and manage it and respect you because you overcame it.
Well, listen, time's up for us.
Yeah.
We really hope you enjoyed today's show because we really appreciate you allowing us to be part of your journey and helping you grow and reach your dreams.
So always remember, until next time, that we
Are rooting for you.